Hi everyone, it's me E and welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be my 2024 Christmas doll repaint video, and this is the concept sketch and this is the doll we're going to be using. This year's a little bit different because I'm using a brand new in-box doll, which I don't normally do, and she's little and she's, well, literally Rainbow High Littles. I've never used a Rainbow High doll before, but I chose this one because I want her to be a Christmas tree topper for a small tree that I have in my bedroom. And I picked her because I like her white hair, and she is, while she is a Rainbow High doll, because she's a little version, she doesn't have those inset eyes. She has printed on eyes, which means I'll be able to remove them, hopefully, with acetone rather than having to make new inset eyes for her. I want to be a little bit simpler this year and lean into the features that she already has. I'm going to keep her hair colors the way that they are and just restyle the hair, hopefully, and try and maybe repurpose and rework her outfit and just tweak it until it's a little bit more Christmassy. And so I'm using her natural or original color palette as an inspiration. And also, I will insert an image here of my inspo pic for what her face up is going to look like. I want to lean into a sort of vintage angel design. Here was like a mood board, and here is another version of the concept sketch. So what we're looking to do is give her a more sweet and simple face up with, my husband said it looked like rosacea, but you'll see in the concept photo or the inspo pic from Pinterest that it's just super blushed cheeks. I'm gonna cut her hair a little bit shorter, make it more like shoulder length or chin length, hopefully, and add more curl to it. We're gonna do a big red bow on her head, and we're going to lengthen her skirt and hopefully add sleeves to it, and obviously angel wings. So that is the plan. So let's crack into this box and see what we're working with. Okie doke. What do we think of her as is? I think she's very cute. I think she has a very sweet expression. I was expecting her hair to be crispier and crunchety, but it's really not. So I don't think I'm gonna have to do too much work to make her hair pliant and workable. The unfortunate thing is that her top is made of plastic, which I don't like very much, but it is still sewn to this tulle skirt. So what I'm wondering is if I will be able to maybe glue the sleeves in and then add more layers under it, or if we will have to start from scratch. I really like this bow on the front, which I definitely want to use, this pretty opalescent bow. So here we go. Here's the raw material that we're working with. So I'm going to start with taking her hair out of these ponytails and removing her factory paint with acetone. And of course I will give her face a spray with Mr. Super Clear, and I'll get started on her outfit. Okie doke. So now I'm going to start on the outfit. So I'm using this really cute white satin ribbon to make the sleeves. I picked this ribbon because I felt like the width of it would make the perfect length for a sleeve, and then the finished edges of the ribbon would basically be the hem. Now in my concept sketch I had cuffs around the end of the sleeve, but I realized her hands aren't super flexible, so I left the cuff of the sleeve quite wide to accommodate her hand sliding through, and of course it just makes it easier on me to not have to do any finishing touches to the sleeve other than just sewing up a little tube for her arm to go through. And there's one. And the other. Because the rubber of the shirt is quite soft, I was actually able to sew the sleeve on, and the stitches aren't too noticeable, and I think it looks really cute. So now it's time to sew on the other one. Okay, so now the plan is to add some length to the skirt. I'll be using this sparkly white tool to do it. Before I add the tool, I think I'm going to actually lengthen the inside lining of the skirt as well with more of the satin ribbon that I used for the sleeves. You may be wondering why I didn't bust out my sewing machine to do any of the sewing on this project, but the reason is that sewing machines trigger my fight or flight reflex, so hand sewing it is for me. And I'll admit, it doesn't look super clean with that seam there, but it will not be too noticeable in a minute. Okay, so after I attached this bottom ruffle, I guess you'd call it, to the length of the skirt, I seam ripped the sides of this so that I can insert my tool layer in between these two. So hopefully I can do that and make it look pretty clean without having to rip out the whole skirt and re-sew it. I'm telling you right now, I do not want to do that. So let's see what we can do. Okay, I think I was pretty successful in sandwiching the tulle layer between the original tulle layer of the dress with the satin layer underneath. So all I have left to do is just hem it. And with tulle, you know, there's not a risk of fraying, so pretty much just have to trim it. So I think I'll try it on her and make sure that the length is good. But I think that the under tulle layer looks really cute. So the next step and final embellishment on this part of the outfit is to add some ribbons to the skirt, and so I'm using a lighter here to fray check the ribbon so that it won't fray. And I just attached them with hot glue, easy peasy. So next I made the wings, and I just sort of laid the doll down on a piece of paper so I could get the scale right for the wings and sketched out the design, which I later had to alter because the base of the wing was too wide to attach to her outfit, but this was the preliminary shape and I was using that reference image. And of course we just used Mod Podge and this extra fine glitter sprinkled over the top, and I did it on both sides, front and back, and I did actually, I don't show it, but I did 2 layers of Mod Podge and glitter on each side, so they actually wind up being quite thick and almost like a plasticky type texture. They do not feel like paper anymore with all of the glue and the glitter added, so they feel quite a bit sturdier than just paper. So I think this is actually a really good method for making this scale of angel wings for this type of doll. And I later will attach it to the outfit. I will sew it on. I tried just gluing it on, but the glue came off, so sewing it was the best method. And here I am masking off the doll's hair, and I'm just using a vinyl glove and lots of sewing pins. Now is my favorite part, the face up. And so as you can see, I'm more or less totally ignoring her face sculpt in favor of giving her much smaller and more, we'll say, demure eyes, akin to that reference image that I flashed up on the screen a couple of times. I really like the giant anime-ish original eyes of the Rainbow High dolls, but for this design I want to capture more of that vintage Christmas feel, like sort of a mashup of a vintage style face up and classic Christmas style of outfit with a more modern pastel color palette. And the tree that I'm putting it on sort of has that mashup vibe itself, so it really will suit the decor of my home. My one regret with the initial layer of face up here is that I made the eyebrows way too dark, and that's something that I will have to go back in later and fix. And in the initial pass, it does kind of look like she has pink eye with all of like the reddish pinkish hues around her eye, but that will get toned down in subsequent layers as well. And in fact, this doll came together really quickly and easily. One of the nicest and easiest projects I've ever done. And part of the reason I think is that the Mr. Super Clear sealant was just really working well today. And so I actually only needed 3 layers of pencil and pastel to finish the doll. So there was the initial layer of Mr. Super Clear and then 3 more sprays. So 3 layers of paint and 4 layers of Mr. Super Clear. And here are the rosacea cheeks coming in, and I think that they look so super cute. I feel like if you're going for this type of vintagey style, you cannot be too heavy-handed with the blush. Just keep heaping it on, keep adding. I promise it will be cute. This is where we are, 1 layer in. The whites of her eyes and the subtle highlight on her nose I did with Posca pen ink. Posca pen ink is basically a thin acrylic paint, so I think it works fairly well for doll faces because you don't want a thick layer of paint, but I used a paintbrush to pick it up. And I wish I would have gotten my head out of the way of the camera. But anyway, I also added lighter shades to her eyes, this lighter blue to the iris, and then I even went in with white highlights, radiating out from her pupil to make her eyes look lighter and brighter like the reference image. And of course I add the little catch lights which make a doll come to life. And I think that I managed to finally get those eyebrows lightened up so you can see they're not very dark anymore. Now, believe it or not, we're done with the face, and it's time to move on to her hair, which is another thing that can kind of trigger my fight or flight instinct. I am not much of a hairstylist. I keep my hair very short, in part because I stink at hairstyling. So what you have to do with doll hair, particularly like this cheap plasticky doll hair, is do sort of secondhand heat. I did a test with my flat iron just to see if there was any way I could possibly apply heat directly to this hair, and no, it will melt. So I used a flat iron to heat up a butter knife to get her hair flattened back down to her scalp. So you know how it is, girls. You have to straighten your hair before you can curl it. So that's what I did. And then I'm using a metal straw to be her curling iron. And again, I'm heating up the metal straw, then curling the hair. And let me tell you, this was the most time consuming part of the whole doll. It took me probably an hour and a half or more to curl all of her hair, and it took me like 3 separate sessions. And I would stop and like hairspray in between because these curls will fall out so fast if you're not careful. But anyway, this was a miserable process, and I don't think I really succeeded in making the hair look vintagey, but they're kind of giving like that Utah Mormon girl curl, which is beautiful, but it's very modern and like Instagram-y looking. But I think it is slightly remedied later when I trim the hair. But this was a labor of love, I guess. It was time consuming and made me feel a sort of hatred in my soul. Okay, one eternity later and we have a mediocre curl job. It will look better once it's trimmed because the ends that didn't quite get curled very nicely will get trimmed off. But here we go. This is her hair trimmed. And now all I have to do is assemble, slap a red bow in her hair, and time for the reveal. If you're curious about how I attached her to the treetop, well, I just wrapped a sort of thick gauge wire around her legs and then wrapped that wire around the tree. And since the dress is kind of open in the back like a hospital gown, I didn't need to cut open her clothes or anything. Just goes straight out the back of the dress and onto the tree. Classy. And thanks for watching, guys. That's the end of this video. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas. Bye-bye!